Commissioners, the next item is item number 10, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan. It's at 90-96 Barrow Street, located within the Greenwich Village Historic District, docket number 166443, block 605, lot 40 through 49. This is a group of 4 houses constructed in 1827. Application is to demolish an existing garage, construct a new garage, install decks at the rear facade, excavate the rear yards, and construct a garden wall and pergola.
But that's not the right one, though.
Yeah.
I think Brett, I don't know, I left them there. Oh, you have it, okay. Good afternoon, Commissioner Sandy Chung, Preservation Staff. 90 and 96 Barrow Street are a group of 4 houses that are part of the St. Luke in the Fields complex located mid-block between Hudson and Greenwich Street in the Greenwich Village Historic District. The proposal is for work at the rear. Here's an existing plan. The demolition of an existing garage, a 20th century garage, and the construction of a new garage in a new location. The construction of a brick wall, seen here and along here and here. Excavation of a portion of the rear yards by approximately 3 feet 11 inches. The construction of a metal and ipe wood pergola in the rear yards. And the construction of a deck and stairs at the rear elevation of each house. Commissioners, please note that in 2014, the Commission approved the construction of an 11-story building at the southwest corner of the St. Luke in the Fields complex, which will block the visibility of the work from this location. Portions of the work may be visible through plantings and an opening at the wall at the east corner of the complex, so around here. And the applicant is here to discuss the project.
Thanks. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Barry Rice Architects. I came before you with the previous building that was 100 Barrow Street on the corner of Greenwich Street and Barrow. That is this building here, and we're proposing to do several things on this block here, this site. These are 4 townhouses dating from around 1825. The intention is to completely restore those to the extent possible. The front facade will not be altered in any way. There will be no visible rooftop additions. The rear facade will be only affected in as much as, first of all, the front facade, which shows is here. These metal stoops have detailing that will be referred to in rear stairs that will give access from the living piano and overlay down to the garden at the back of the townhouses. This shows an existing structure that was built sometime around 1930, a garage, replacing a much smaller shed from predating that. This shows the condition of the brickwork on that garage. This shows how it's used. It's used for gardening equipment to maintain the close of the Church of St. Luke in the Field. This is the existing plan showing the site, which is the adjacent site, 100 Barrow, which is currently vacant. It shows the 4 townhouses. It shows a rear addition to number 90 Barrow Street at the back that was added sometime, we think, around early 20th century. We'd like to make a minor change to this, reducing it in size. This shows the existing garage from 1929. Here we see a site plan showing the new enclosure, as Sandy had mentioned, a wall that connects the new garage building with the proposed new building at 100 Barrow, a wall that then continues to provide enclosure to the rear garden here, but allowing opening for access, visual access from the garden that will remain on the corner of Barrow and Hudson Streets here. This shows the plan arrangement of the main living level, which is at the level of the top of the stoops on Barrow Street, showing kitchen living room arrangement and new access with new stairs detailed in the same way for each of the townhouses, providing access to the garden. The garden is being lowered by an average of 3 feet to provide more convenient access to the cellar level of the townhouses. Also shown in plan here is a pergola, seems to be popular this morning. This is an epay battens supported on a core 10 steel structure, and I'll show you some pictures of that. The existing rear elevation, the existing front elevation of Barrow Street, of the existing townhouses. It was the rear. Sorry, rear elevation, showing the existing grade level here. This shows the lowered grade down here. The windows, door openings, everything on this elevation will remain as existing. The only difference is we're adding these new stairs here. This garden wall and its openings were shown when we applied for 100 Barrow Street, but for those commissioners who weren't here at that time, the intention here is to provide a visible connection between the close of the church and the new garden inside. We don't want to wall the garden off as part of a continuous visual link, linking various landscapes. The view from inside the gardens will be this, with the lowered level here. There will be 3 steps up to the level of the pergola that will cover the rear portion of the garden. The bond that we're using on the brick wall, the garage, and is the same bond used on the townhouses, the common bond of brick. This shows the wall when viewed from the garden at the corner of Barrow and Hudson Street, with an opening with a painted steel grille providing visual connection down to the garden from the public, semi-public space within the garden, but providing security also for the owners or the residents of this townhouse. Here we have details of the metalwork, which you can see it more clearly, I think, in your brochures. As I've mentioned, the detailing of the new stairs at the rear picks up the detail that exists on the stairs on the stoops on the Barrow Street side of the townhouses. The existing garage that we are removing is about 720 square feet in plan, and we're replacing it with a garage of exactly the same surface area, slightly different shape. The garage will have doors that open into the close for access by the church's maintenance crews to get the gardening equipment. These views here show the new stairs at the rear, the garden wall enclosing the rear of the townhouses, the pergola, that is, the structure is core 10 steel, epay battens suspended from it, steps and pavers, samples of which are down here, concrete pavers, and then planting which fills the area between the rear of the townhouses and these steps. I might add that these townhouses will in fact be rental townhouses for single families. They'll be returned more or less to their original configuration inside. But the gardens will connect with the landscaping proposed at the 6th floor garden area of 100 Barrow Street, where the plant material and the shapes in the garden, the naturalistic curved lines within the garden, will be repeated from what we're proposing on the Barrow Street, 100 Barrow Street building. That's okay.
Okay, questions? Yes, Michael.
Are those rear doors now original, or?
I don't know whether they're original, but we are matching exactly what is there. They're all consistent in detail, but I can't say categorically that they date from 1825.
Because that is an historic configuration on the rear of a building, and it just
We're not changing.
from an historical, pedagogical point of view, it would be really great to know if they were in fact original. I understand your need to replace them, but is there any way we can get that information?
With the help of staff, we'll do what we can to find that information.
Great,
Yeah.
thanks. Oh, bugs in. All right, thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, we'll take testimony. Are there any speakers on this item? No speakers. We received Community Board 2's recommendation to deny this application unless there's a firm commitment that the original bricks will be used in the reconstruction of the garage, and further, the applicant work with staff to research whether the proposed stairs are historically accurate. And we also received testimony from Greenwich Village Society for Historic Preservation, and they have concerns about the details, and including the stairs at the rear. And let's see. They have concerns about the height of the wall and the wood trellis and the concrete pavers in the rear yard. All right. Okay. Are there any more questions for the applicant?
Just
Yes,
following
Adi.
that question, Michael's question, are the new stairs in the back wood stairs like the existing?
No, the existing stairs, there are some wood stairs that exist in the rear, correct. We are making these stairs the same material as the stoops on Barrow Street. Okay, so they're not wood. There will be masonry with painted metal railing.
And is there any way that they might be more like the intention of what rear stair was? It seems to me anyway that wood might be more appropriate
We'd
for
be
that
very
back.
willing to look at that option. Frankly, in the choice of material, we were concerned with the longevity. This is a 100-year ground lease on here. We wanted to minimize maintenance, but certainly if you would prefer to see a wooden stair.
Well, I don't know. This is,
The maintenance would be painting, that's not really.
I can tell you we've had to rebuild and repair the wooden steps on the Hudson Street townhouses at the rear several times. They are much higher maintenance, but if that's what you want.
If you keep a good paint film on them, the wood doesn't deteriorate.
Okay. That hasn't been our experience since I've been rented, but I'll defer to your historic knowledge.
Was there a 74-711 on these townhouses as part of the original job?
I don't believe it was a 74-711, right? It was as of right, except for the fact that they got a certificate of appropriateness from this commission.
Right, and Commissioners, I can't recall where we required wooden stoop or step on the rear of a building. We routinely approve metal decks, metal stairs, regardless of visibility. And there may be code issues, I'm not sure, but just in terms of our practice.
Right, and I think the other thing is that with the proposal, they're building a wall, even though I think one portion you can look through from the garden. But if you go there right now, in fact, because I went there over the weekend, and from the street you can barely see it because, in fact, even the winter there's a lot of vegetation and there's a tree in the middle. But there's a fence right now that's going to be replaced with an 8-foot wall. So I think the visibility at the rear would be very limited. And from that perspective, if we have allowed for other material which is can be better maintained than wood, I wouldn't have an issue with them replacing the wood stairs.
The entire wall is new.
They are building out the wall, yes. Maybe you can just comment on whether you could reuse the brick from the garage, or is that something that...
Certainly. That was a question that came up with Community Board too, and I said there what I'll say now is we will endeavor to reuse the brick. The only circumstance I think where we would not be able to is if the mortar had bonded too strongly to the brick and it caused damage to the brick when they're moving it. We will attempt to reuse the existing brick.
Okay. Other questions or comments? All right, I think we can close the hearing then. Okay. Any concerns with the proposal? Okay, good. Chris, would you like to read the proposal? Yes. And maybe we can include a recommendation that they work with staff regarding to the extent possible to salvage the brick.
Okay.
Identify the wood doors.
And, right, and work with them on the...
That's sort of an informal.
Okay, oh, that's informal, okay. Okay, all right, great.
To the matter of 96 Barrow Street, Greenwich Village Historic District, application is to demolish an existing garage, construct a new garage, install decks at the rear facades, excavate the rear yards, and construct a garden wall and pergola. I recommend approval, finding that the proposed brick garden walls will help delineate the rear yards of the houses from the common space of the St. Luke in the Fields complex. that the proposed materials of the garden walls, including brick, limestone coping stones, and bronze grills, will relate to the historic brick houses and are in keeping with materials found elsewhere within the block, that the existing garage is a simply designed 20th century secondary structure within the St. Luke in the Fields complex, and its demolition will not cause the removal of significant historic fabric, that the proposed garage featuring brick walls, wood doors, and a copper roof will recall the materials of the nearby houses, and its relocation further west of the existing garage will not detract from other buildings within the complex or the landscape features of the site, that the excavation of a portion of the rear yard will not result in the removal or damage of any significant building features or rear yard, and that the extent of excavation will not diminish the relationship between the adjacent rear yards or church garden, that the excavation is to be designed and built in compliance with Department of Buildings regulations under the supervision of a licensed professional engineer to protect the building's primary facades and the adjacent buildings, that the proposed metal decks and stairs at the rear elevations and the metal and wood pergolas will not result in damage to or demolition of any significant architectural features of the buildings or rear yards, that the proposed decks and pergolas will only be visible through 4 openings at the proposed garden walls from within the church garden, and that the proposed work will not detract from the special architectural and historic character of the buildings, the St. Luke in the Fields complex, or the Greenwich Village Historic District. Additionally,
They will work with staff to explore whether the brick, the garage can be salvaged and reused.
as stated.
Okay. Seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, great. This application's been approved.